Today's daf is daf Nun Ches in Yevmot, as we learned for Yosef and Chaim Michal, and for Shlomo for him and for Elazar ben Ruma. So yesterday we brought up this discussion of Machlokas Rav and Shmuel Yesh Chuppah L'Psulos. There's a chuppah which is only supposed to take place in the context of a marriage, but if it wasn't done that way, there was no erusin first, there was no kinyan, and there was no bia, just the chuppah itself. Does that confer somewhat of a marriage, so that if a Kohen, for example, marries somebody he's not supposed to, like a Kohen Gadol marrying an Amona or a Kohen marrying a Grusha, would that forbid her from eating Truma? Even Truma, let's say if she was a Bas Kohen, she can't eat his Truma yet because they're not married. Even though we said Midrabanan, not Midrabanan, Midaraisa, she could eat so there's a Kedushin, but there's no Kedushin yet over here. There's no Kedushin. All he had was Chuppah. So it's like beginning of Bila. So there is no, you can't eat Truma of that, but can she eat Truma still from her father's house if she's a Bas Kohen? Or does that ruin her from eating Truma? Because if such a marriage were to be consummated, certainly she cannot eat Truma. Meaning, we had in the Mishnah, if a Kohen, let's say a Kohen marries a Grusha, and he marries her, and they sleep together, she certainly is forbidden from eating Truma, his Truma or her father's Truma, because he's ruined her, made her into a Halala if he marries her. What happens if it was only Kedushin? He only did Kedushin. So he didn't consummate the marriage. So we had a machlokas between Rav Meir on the one hand and Rav Shapiro on the other hand. Rav Meir says, no, that since she's waiting for a Bia Psul, she already cannot eat Truma, even though he didn't consummate it yet, just had Kedushin, can't eat Truma anymore. Rav Shapiro said, no, it is okay to eat Truma. Then the question we have is, no Kedushin, no Nesuin, but there was Chuppah. Yesh Chuppah, does Chuppah ruin it or not? Rav says yes, Shmuel said no. At the end of the daf, yesterday's daf, we said, Rav Muhammad said, it's machlokas Rav Meir and Rav Shimon. The same machlokas Rav and Shmuel, is machlokas Rav Meir and Rav Shimon. At the top of the page, daf Nun Ches. Rav Meir, Dama Kedushin Pasley, since Rav Meir holds what? That Kedushin ruins her from eating Truma. The Kedushin itself, even though she didn't yet consummate with the Kohen, the Grusha with the Kohen, Chuppah Nami Pasley, Kedushin ruins it, Chuppah also ruins it. Ruins her from eating Truma. Rav Shimon Dama Kedushin Lo Pasli. Rav Shimon said the Kedushin doesn't passel. Chopanami Lo Pasla. So the Chorah, the Machlokas, Rav and Shmuel is really the Machlokas Rav Meir and Rav Shimon. So Gemara no. Who says Dilma Akam Lakom Rav Meir Hasam El Kedushin. Kedushin ruins it. Why? To Kanila, because he acquired her. Avo Chuppah de Lo Kanila. But by Chuppah, he hasn't acquired yet. He hasn't done Kedushin. It's just like beginning of Bia. Well, maybe there it wouldn't ruin it. Inami, I can't look at Rav Shimon the other way around. You could say also, where Rav Shimon say that Kedushin does not ruin her from eating Truma Hasam El Kedushin Lo Krevela because it's not close to Bia. Avo Chuppah de Krevela, Chuppah is like the beginning of Bia. It's like the prelude for Bia. Maybe that would ruin us. So you can't prove it from there. Machlokas is not totally in Machlokas. The question of Yesh Chuppah L'Psulos is not dependent on Rav Meir and Rav Shimon. If you want to say there's a machlokas, I'll tell you maybe it depends on the following machlokas. Look at the Hari Tanai. Depends on the following machlokas Tanam. This question of Yesh Chuppah is the Tanya. Nisu. Let's say this Kohen married both kinds of women, Sheresu Psulos, women who are kosher for him to marry, who are fit, who are legitimate for him to be married, eligible for him to be married to legitimately. Upsulos and ones that he can't marry. Or they had the chuppah v'lo nivla and that bia. That's our question. He had bia without that. It says either you're married or nifsul v'lo nivlu ochus mishalo. So Tanakam says they could eat. It says and ochus v'truma they could eat truma. Says what do you mean by? He says nisu if they got married or if they had chuppah without having bia. Nichnasu machlal nisu mashram. If you say nichnasu l'chuppah without having bia, it's mashram that nisu means like literally got married. Well, if they really got married, if a Kohen marries a Grusha, there's nobody who says she can eat Truma now. Once he married her and made her into a Chalala, right, she certainly can't eat Truma, so it can't mean that. Elalav, Kagon Shinach. When it says, it's not two things. It's not Nisu, Zu, Bazu, Ksheres Plus, Oh, Shinach Sulchapa. Rather, what does Nisu, Zu, Ksheres Plus mean? Kagon, like he had Chuppah without Bia, because if he had Bia, everybody agrees that if a Kohen has Bia with a Grusha, she can't eat Truma anymore. He's made her into a Chalala. His Truma or her father's Truma if she's a Bas Kohen. And the same thing, and Nichsul Chubin in this verse, Elaf Go Nichsul Chubin V'lo Nivlu. And then a Bia B'Ktani, and the Tanakam says, Ochus Mishlo Bas Truma. So this Tana holds, here he says very clearly, that if you went into the Chuppah and didn't have Bia, you could still eat truma. Okay, so that's the question of yesh chuppah psulos. Does the chuppah ruin the psula, ruin this woman who's not supposed to marry the Kohen from eating truma or not? This one says it doesn't. If you niflu the chuppah below nivlu, it doesn't ruin it. She can still eat truma. Here's the machlokas from Bishmol. Rabbi Shmuel says no. Kol should be asa mechlasa. If consummating the marriage would entitle her to eat, chuppah also machilasa. A chuppah also would effectively entitle her to eat. But over here, where it's a forbidden marriage and consummating marriage would not allow her to eat truma, and chuppah also would not allow her to eat the truma. So where the bia wouldn't help, the chuppah also would also, so to speak, prohibit her. Where the bia would not help. In other words, the bia would prohibit her from eating truma because he's ruined her. The chuppah also would. So that's a machlokas, same as Machlokas said before. That in other words, the question of yesh chuppah psulos is dependent on this machlokas. Who says Dilma b'shmo baruch shem ra'oka Rameir Shapiro. Maybe he holds like Rameir. The hell's when kedushin. If you had kedushin with somebody you're not supposed to marry, that forbids her from eating truma. Here also, dama kedushin la'achla. Says more if it would be kedushin. So why does he talk about it? Hi kol shem b'yisam mechalos and chubas machos. Why does Rabbi Shmuel say if the bia would not help her, like over here, the bia would ruin her from eating truma, the chuppah would also prohibit her. She wouldn't be able to eat truma based on that, would ruin her from truma. If he's talking about kedushin like Rameir, it should say kol she'im biyasa mechilasa and kaspa mechilasa, where the bia would prohibit her from eating truma. The kedushin also would prohibit her from eating truma. It should say kaspa, meaning kedushin. He says no. Tanakama, since the Tanakama talks about chuppah, army unamachuppah, but maybe he really means kedushin. So it's not 100% clear at the end of the day. The question of yesh chuppah l'psulos, so we say as a machlokas Rav and Shmuel, is it also the same as a machlokas being Tanakama over here in Bishmol? Not so much. We're not really sure because maybe Bishmol really holds like Rameir, and we said Rameir maybe only holds that by kedushin, but not necessarily by chuppah. Why? Because by kedushin we said what? He acquires her. So he acquires her. He acquires her, and now she's waiting for a bia to consummate the marriage, which would forbid her. So we say she can't eat truma also. But over here by chuppah, she didn't even really acquire, so we're not really sure. Is the machlokas Rav and Shmuel also dependent on this machlokas? Amar of Amram, Hamilsa Amar of Sheshes. So Sheshes told us the following thing. This is like a new member. We're halfway down the page. The following thing was told us by Rav Sheshes, and he wanted to enlighten our eyes by telling us, by proving from a Mishnah. He wanted to say like Rav that yesh chuppah l'psulos, that a chuppah helps for a psula, meaning in the sense that it forbids her from eating truma. Rashi in the top of yesterday's page on Amid Bay said, "Kohen Gadol she'nichnas la'amarak bas kohen l'chuppah below ba'aleh." Mikar he didn't locate. She didn't give it. Shafilochi paslam et truma. She can't eat truma in her father's house. The chuppah is like the beginning of bia. So the chuppah accomplishes something that it ruins her from eating truma. That if Cohen slept with somebody, let's say Grush, that he wasn't supposed to, he did it by taking her into the chuppah. That ruins it. If he ever sleeps with her, whether it's znus or whether it's marriage, a Cohen cannot sleep with a Grusha. The Cohen Gadol can't sleep with Amon. If they do, they turn into a chalola. But if he just had chuppah with her without having kedushin, he had kedushin, that's machlokes Rav Meir on the one hand, Rav Shapiro on the other hand. If he just had chuppah without kedushin, would that ruin her from eating truma or not? So Shesha said yes. The Tanatoni wants to prove from our Mishnah, from a Mishnah. Which Mishnah? Tanatoni from Mishnah in Sota. It says by a Sota. What is a Sota? A woman who is suspected of adultery by her husband. And he warned her not to go into seclusion with that particular fellow. And then she went into seclusion. There were 8 of them that started going to seclusion. They didn't see the act, because if they saw the act, she's for sure forbidden, and it's case is closed. He divorces her, no ksuba, it's case is closed. Here we're not sure. She's suspected of going into of having bia because she certainly went into seclusion with him, and he takes her to the base of Mikdash, and they go through the procedure with the drink. And the Kohen makes her swear. She swears that she didn't commit adultery. And when it says over there, V'amar ha'isha amein amein, what's this double lashon of amein amein? So she says, now I swear on all these cases, I swear shalosh shatisi arusa, that I didn't commit adultery. I didn't go away from the derech, so to speak. I didn't become a sota while I was in arusa, even when I was just betrothed. V'nesur, when I was married. Shemeres yavam, I didn't commit adultery while I was a shemeres yavam, meaning Reuben died with no children and left Leah, and before Shimon gave her chalitza or yibum, she committed adultery. right? It says, I swear I didn't do that either. Uknusa, or after the Yavam married her. I swear, I swear, I swear. Now that's what it says over there. Now what do you mean? What do you mean by arusa? Hi arusa echidami. What do you mean she committed a? You only make a sota on a woman who's fully married, not a woman who's an arusa. Hi arusa echidami. Even in the kani log she arusa. If it's speaking about what? Where he gave her kinui, he warned her while she was an arusa, right? The istatra, and she went in seclusion. The kamashkala, and he's giving her to drink. He's making her drink the maimar while she's on arusa. Arusa bas mishteh. Arusa doesn't drink. But time we learn arusa v'shmer siyavim lo shas l'nos ksuba. If he suspects her of adultery while she's on arusa shmer siyavim, she doesn't drink because it says tachas ishech while you were married to your husband. And arusa is not married to her husband. She neither is shmer siyavim. But since they put themselves into seclusion, she loses her ksuba because of her own silliness, her own mistake. She loses the ksuba. So what is it speaking about here, arusa? Notice Lashav, the kani lak shiarusa. Kani lak shiarusa means he gave her kinui, right? And on the fifth line of this page, the kani la there means he acquired her, right? So it depends on the Lashav. It's like saying, what do you say in Yiddish? Svensach vi de chamra shtay. If the chamra is in the barn, then it's a donkey. If the chamra is in the wine cellar, then it's wine, right? So here the kani la can mean, first meant that he acquired her. Here it means he gave her kinui. He warned her. So what's going on with arusa? I swear that I didn't commit adultery while I was in arusa. And arusa doesn't drink, but it's not arusa. El the kind of maybe it's speaking about where he warned her while she was in arusa. He suspected her already. As soon as they got engaged, he suspected her. Bistatra, and she went into seclusion with this fellow. The kamashkalak she nasua. Oh, now he's giving her a drink after they marry. Wait, after they married, he can then it's tachas. Mi bad kalamaya. Does the water check there? What do you mean? If you got engaged to a girl and you suspect her of adultery and you warned her, and then she went in seclusion despite that, you're marrying a girl like that? Maybe you shouldn't be married to her, right? Not only that, the Torah says, don't marry her. The water won't check in a case like that. And the husband will be innocent from any sin. What did the husband do over here? He was the one who was wrong. No. And if he is clean, meaning he hasn't bedded her after he warned her and she went into seclusion. At that point, when he warned her and she went into seclusion, he has an obligation to bring it to the Kohen, to come to the base of Mikdash, right? And deal with the Mayim Amarim, take care of it. You don't just now ignore it. If he is clean, meaning he didn't ignore it, then Hamayim Bod Kenes Ishto, because it says V'nik Ish Me'avam, Isho Nizra Zora, she will have children, right? If she's found innocent, she will have children. So it's not Shish Me'avam, Hamayim Bod Kenes Ishto, the water checks the wife. If he's not innocent, and my mother said it only checks the wife if he's innocent. He hasn't done anything wrong. So what do you mean over here? He warned her while they were in Arusa. Then she went in seclusion, and then he's giving her a drink after they got married. Why would he marry her afterwards? Why would he go through the chuppah? Time to call things off and put that prenup into effect. Go. That's the time to do that. So what's the case of Arusa? He can't give her a drink while they're in Arusa because it's sheikh. He can't give her a drink if he married her after warning her while she was on Arusa and she went into seclusion. Ella, Sharusa, here's what happened. He warned her while she was on Arusa and she went into seclusion with the guy. She was a bad girl. He didn't commit a sin. He said, okay, we'll go through the marriage. Everybody sent the gifts in already. The food is prepared. We'll go through the chuppah, but I'm not sleeping with her. He's not supposed to sleep with her because she's still under suspicion. And what do you see? You drink b'shmamina yesh chuppah psulos. You see over here that the chuppah has an effect. And Rashi says over here, shmamina mina mashkala. The chuppah has an effect. It's considered married to kari l'chuppah. He's not allowed to consummate the marriage, but you see the chuppah has an effect. Otherwise, if he's not married to her, he can't give her to drink. No. But Tisbra, do you think this Mishnah makes sense anyway, the way you're reading? But Tisbra, the home Think the Mishnah makes sense the way it reads? He came from the south of Eretz Yisrael. Also, he brought this price in his hand. He said, it's like this. It says, it makes her swear, if you have slept with anybody besides your husband, meaning your husband had to be there first. You had to be first. Meaning, after you slept with your husband, you slept with some other guy. Only if the husband slept with her before the adulterer did. Again, it doesn't work if she's only an arusa. It doesn't work if he committed a sin by marrying her subsequent to confirming his suspicion. It doesn't work if he did not sleep with her before the adulterer. So what does this case mean? You say, oh, he got engaged to her, gave an arusa, warned her not to sleep with that guy, not to go into seclusion. He went into seclusion with that guy. Then he married her without having bia, because otherwise it's a sin and then it wouldn't work. But he married her without bia, and then he gave her the drink. But that wouldn't work either, because it turns out now that the adulterer apparently slept with her, is suspected of sleeping with her, and the husband hasn't yet slept with her. So that doesn't work either. I'll tell you, it could work. And we're still trying to put the case of yesh chuppah psulos, meaning a chuppah without bia. It could work out that way. How? He got engaged to her, and he's not supposed to, but couldn't control himself, and he had bia with her in her father's house, before the nisuin. Happens, right? They were engaged, and he had bia with her before. So he did have bia with her before. He warned her afterwards, don't go into seclusion with the other guy, and she did. Then he waited for the marriage, and after the marriage, he didn't sleep with her again. So he wasn't over on Nika Ishmael, but he's innocent, right? He hasn't slept with her since he suspected her. But he warned her after he got engaged to her, and there was an arison, right? You need a get in a case like that. It was full arison. And he slept with her while she was still living at her father's house. Then he suspected her, and he told, don't go with that guy, and she went with that guy, and there were Adam to that. Then he married her without consummating the marriage. No, it's not considered consummated because she didn't have Nisuin yet. He had bia with her while they were in Arusa without the purpose of Nisuin, with no chuppah. No chuppah. He didn't have intention for chuppah at all. So you still need a get because it's Erusin. Kesef Shabiyah. That's the condition. Yeah, but no, it's not. That's not it either, because it's not speaking where he made the Erusin via the bia. He had the Erusin. He gave her a ring, and it was all good and dandy. Then they had bia there at the house. He did something he shouldn't have done, but it wasn't the purpose of Nisuin. Wasn't married yet. That's what we mean by Arusa. You have to have kavanah. Only by Yibum you don't have to have kavanah, as we said shogeg. By Yibum, when he's miyamr, doesn't work, but for Nasuin you have to have kavanah. That's why we said before. Remember that if a person was normal and got engaged to the girl, we hit that a few days ago, right? Got engaged, had an erusin, and then he became mentally impaired, like a cheirish, right? He can't perform the nasuin because he has to have kavanah. So he didn't have kavanah for that. So he says that's the case. Okay, that's the case. So we're trying to qualify all the situations. How is it that he can give her the drink? Okay, and she's an arusa because he got engaged to her. She had bia with him in the house she shouldn't have. Okay, then he suspected her and he warned her, and she went into seclusion. And then he waited till he got married without consummating the marriage after the chuppah. And that's that he just did the chuppah without with that. And we're proving that yesh chuppah l'psulos, and he can give her the drink. It's considered a chuppah. It's considered married. Says Gemara, wait a minute.
Isn't this the case that we just said before, where the prenup should be coming up? What do you mean? The idea would be that he warned her after the marriage, not before the marriage, no?
No. So he warned her. The warning is okay before the marriage. The warning's okay before the marriage. We're trying to say here, in normal cases, he marries a girl, she commits adultery, he suspects her, and blah, blah, blah. You go through the procedure, the prenup, the mayim amarim, etc. Here it's speaking about, he says she swears also that she didn't commit adultery while she was in Arusa. What does Arusa mean? He can't give her the drink while she's in Arusa because it has to be tachas sheikh. It can't be where he consummated the marriage after he warned her, because then he's a sinner. After he warned her and it was confirmed, his suspicions were confirmed that there were Adam who saw them go into seclusion, he's not allowed to marry her. Because if he marries her, if he consummates the marriage, then he's a sinner. So we're talking about this case. He got engaged to her. He had bia with her, right? He had bia with her. Otherwise, because you have to have all three cases. You have to be married, you have to be where he didn't sin, and you have to be where he had bia with her before the adultery.
So
it only works in this case. That's what we're saying. But if it only works in this case where Rusa, as we just said, got engaged to her. He got engaged. He slept with her in her father's house, and she then suspected of committing adultery. Then he got married to her without bia, with the chuppah alone, so he didn't sin yet afterwards. And then he's giving her a drink. So you see, yesh chuppah l'psulos. Says the Gemara, if that's the case by Arusa, what about Shemer Siyavim? What did the Mishnah say? The Mishnah said, Arusa Shemeres Yavam, what was the Amen Shlosh Arusa Nesua Shemeres Yavam Knusa. All those cases. So what's the case by Shemeres Yavam also? How are you going to explain Shemeres Yavam? That remember, we're trying to say that it only works if he slept with her before the adulterer. Well, by Shemeres Yavam, we just asked that question, right? Does he have to have kavanah? Shemeres Yavam, he doesn't have to have kavanah. Shemeres Yavam, the kavasa by Shemeres Yavam. How are you going to explain that case? Shabala Yavam Beis Chamia, that the Yavam slept with her. Reuven died, and before he performed Yibum, the Yavam also slept with her, right? Before he performed Yibum. But then Shemeres Yavam, Karslay says the Gemara on the base, that's a Shemeres Yavam. He's married to her. By Yavam, you don't need any kavanah. Ones, Ratzon, Shogeg, Mezid, Znus, whatever it was, it's all Shemeres Yavam Karslay. Ishtamaya, he says, Nam Shadama Rav, Colonel Akol. If he has kavanah, if he has a weak bia, Shogeg, Mezid, Hara, whatever it was, Colonel Akol. So the Gemara says, no, because Shmuel, the Amar Lo, Kanel, Dvarma, Murma Parsha. Remember Shmuel had that machlokes a few blot back. Shmuel said, no, it's not a full marriage. It's only a marriage, and this is from the things written in the Parsha, meaning that he's fulfilled the Yibam. If he dies now, after a week bia, and if he had children from another marriage, she would be potter from Yibam, from further Yibam, and that he inherits Shimon inherits Reuven, things like that. We're not talking about a full marriage, not fully married. Says the Gemara, what are you giving like Shmuel? Midu time el Rav. We're explaining Rav. The machlok you said yesterday, the top of the base was Rav says yesh chilul b'sulas, Shmuel says ein chilul b'sulas. Now Rav Sheshes comes along and says yes, yesh chilul b'sulas like Rav, and he wanted to prove from the Mishnah and Sota. What do you tell me and ask like Shmuel? We're going like Rav. Midu time el Rav. Rav kana lakol. So he inquires us. So how could you explain the case of Shemeres Yavam this way, fulfilling all those qualifications? That they have to be married for the drink. They have to be where he didn't sin by sleeping with her subsequent to the suspicion. And it has to be where he slept with her before. How does that work? So it's a little bit of a strange answer. It's speaking about like this. He got engaged to her how? By giving her mimer. The Yavam, remember there's a mimer is a kedushin drabanan. He gave her mimer, and it goes Beishami that mimer kana kinyan gamor. That it's like they're fully engaged now. Rashi goes to when Arichos over to explain that according to Beishamai, it's like the mimer has made her engaged. That ruins that takes away the zika, and now all you need is chuppah. Beishami damer mimer kana kinyan gamor. What's the case of Yavam? That the Shemeres Yavam, if he consummated the marriage, then they're fully married. And if he didn't consummate the marriage, so what's the case that it's similar to Arusa? What is Shemeres Yavam over here? What is the case here? If he didn't sleep with her before, then the adultery doesn't work, right? He committed adultery with somebody else. He didn't sleep with her yet. If he slept with her, she's married. She's not a Shemeres Yavam. Oh, it's speaking about he did mimer. And it goes like Beishamai, and Rashi in the first shot says, mimer, and then Baaleh Bisnus Beis Chamia. Rashi in the second shot doesn't like that. And he says, Rashi says that another pshat is that he didn't sleep with her at all, but he performed mimer, right? Rashi says here, so the Gemara says if that's the case, okay, he did mimer. So the Yavam did mimer, so it's a kedusha drabanan. But it's Kona Kinyan Gomer, like Beishamai says, the Kona Kinyan Gomer. So he acquires her, so it's like he's married to her before. That's how you have it. So she's not like an Arusa. So Yachi Haina Arusa. So it's the same as Arusa. Was it in Shemeres Yavam that's an Arusa, or this is an Arusa? Why do you say it twice? Isn't married and Knusa the same thing? Ellen Nesua Didei, Knusa de Chavrei means Nesua is his own marriage. That means his own regular marriage in a regular case. And Knusa means where he took his brother's wife. And it also means either his own Arusa, where it's not a case of a Yibam, or Shemeres Yavam, where he performed mimer on her. So now she's the Arusa in a case of Yibam. Rashi says over here, Lishnachrina, Rashi, right, even where we are now, you get the kashanami halas bishka. How can you drink without having bia? And if it's if he had bia with her, it's not Shemeres Yavam. Ella lo took Shemeres Yavam kshabala. Ella could go into Aviv mimer, and therefore, and if he did mimer, so what? So what does mimer do? If he didn't have bia with her, you still have to have bia before the adulterer. The answer is look, she was bal and she was bal arishan. The answer is not worried about. Normally we say that it only a sota only works where the husband had bia with her before, but over here Reuven, the brother, had bia before, so that's good enough. So that's his answer. The answer is that yes, what's the arus? So what is all this trying to show? That it's not a case of yesh chupel psulos, right? Because we're talking about, right? We're trying to say, is it a case of yesh chupel psulos or not? Charles going to rusa, and therefore, so therefore, this is not a case. Is this a case of yesh chupel psulos or not? That's what we're trying to prove. We're trying to prove from over here that, how could this mission make sense? Yeah, it could be we had a rusa and therefore yesh chupel psulos. How does it prove it? Because he was on a rusa or the shemeres yavim with mimer, and in the case at least of the arusa, he warned her then, and he had a bia in her father's house, like we said, and he married her without having bia, so he didn't commit any sin. And what about the fact that he has to sleep with her before? In the case of shemeres yavim, no, well, the brother slept with her before, that's okay. And here he also slept with her. So therefore, according to this, there could be a right yesh chupel psulos from this mission, right? Because there is a chuppah. We're talking about this weird case where there is a chuppah without having bia, and you have to go through the process of sota, which means they're married. So the chari would be approved. But Papa says no. Hi tanu the tanya ein mekana la rusa lashtosek she rusa mekana mashtosek she nasua. Okay, so therefore he says Rav Papa is giving a different reason. There's two pshatim in Rav Papa also, and Rashi refers to the second shot. Rashi says Amra Papa Lishna Achrina, further down in the Rashi on the left side. Of Laolam the kind like Shiarusa Vistato Mashkalak Shinasua. He gave her an assume when she was married. Actually, before they had bia. What about the fact that the husband has to sleep with her before the adulterer? This Tana holds that doesn't apply. He doesn't know the kasha. He doesn't hold that whole drasha that the husband have to sleep with her before was lashon mari v'unir iker. This came milo shatisi arusa v'adarabba halok shiarusa istatra. This steer was before, so therefore he says it's speaking about where he gave her kinu when she was arusa v'istatra, and she had kinu and stira then, and he gives her and he makes her drink when she's in a suah. Why and how does that work? Right? How does it work? It works because mashkin suah, and even though he married her and he wasn't supposed to, we're not makbid about that. He doesn't hold that. This Tana holds that that's not a problem. What does Rav Papa say in the back? Look at the Gemara now. This business that you don't give kinui and stira to a girl when she's in a rusa is only to give her to drink when she's rusa. So you could have kini and stira, when she's in a rusa, and give her to drink afterwards. How can you marry her afterwards? He holds that's not a problem. That's not a problem. Haitanu, who doesn't hold that problem. And here the boel was there before the baal. Tana doesn't hold to that problem, right? And the question about Minuk Mishnah, how could he marry her afterwards? He doesn't hold to that problem either. So Papa says, and therefore, that's how it works out. And it's also Yesh Chupel Psulos. And now one more answer to the Gemara. Nachman says, Ayidei Gilgul. It's not a problem at all. Because Gilgul Shvua means that you can't make somebody swear about something, but if they have to swear Shvua Deraisa, like Shvua Smarta Mixas Midaraisa, you can make them swear another thing. And that's what we learn out from this parsha of Sota, V'amei Isha Amein Amein. Even though he only says, listen, I know you committed adultery after we got married, but I want you to swear also, once you're doing this already, swear also you didn't commit adultery before we were fully married, after the Erison. And that's learned out from here. So Rav Nachman Amar, back in the Gemara, Rav Nachman Amar, Ayidei Gilgul. Here we're talking about Ayidei Gilgul. Mastisim below kina below istrak she arusa. Elakina mishinasa. The kina took place after they got married. Bistatro mashkal Ayidei kina shalachshav. Magalgal of shvua. Kol yom sha'isa tachtav. Misha asarso v'niftka. Mikangul shvua menator. In other words, Rav Papa says this is. Rav Nachman says this is b'chal not a raya. What are we trying to prove? Yesh chupalei. Yesh chupa. Yesh chupal psulos, where he's not supposed to marry her, right? Where he's not supposed to marry her, because psulos means learned by a Kohen marrying a grusha. Here, psulos means he wasn't supposed to marry her. So the Choritz arrived from this, he wasn't supposed to marry her, and he married her. So the Gemara said, well, wait a minute. How could he marry her? How does this work anyway? The Shchivas Baal has to be before the Boel. The answer is that he slept with her in the father's house before. That was the first answer that we gave. Okay, so then what's the problem? Yesh chupel psulos when he's not supposed to marry her. Over here, in the first answer, we say it is possible by the Arusa, right? Where he had bia with her before, and then later on he did so and so, right? How are you going to answer by Yavam? So we said by Yavam, the answer is that he did mimer. Okay, but is it really psulos in that case? Is that really yesh chupel psulos? Is it really possible for him to be married to her at this point or not? According to Rav Papa, he says, so over here, there was no problem with her marrying her. He gave her Kenan steer before, and he doesn't hold that other business about not marrying her, so there wasn't a psulos also. It's no proof yesh psulos because it's not psulos. And according to Nachman, it's certainly not psulos because according to Nachman, it's a regular case where a guy married her. He married her, and then he gave her Kenan stira. Then when he gave her Kenan stira and he's making her swear, he said, by the way, I want you to swear also that you didn't that you didn't commit adultery while we were engaged, right? So there was no problem. Why is he psulos? He married her legitimately. The whole question came up afterwards. So it's not a question of yesh bila psulos or not, yesh chupel psulos or not, because it's not psula. So from Rav Nachman, we see Rav Nachman gives an answer and says this isn't a case of psulos or not. According to Rav Papa also, you could say that it's not a question of psulos because he's allowed to marry her in those cases. There's no issue of marrying. He doesn't hold that drasha. So from Rav Papa and Nachman, we see clearly that we're speaking about it's not a case of yesh chupel psulos or not. It's not. Why? Because it's not psula. She's not forbidden to marry him. According to the first answer that we said, it's mashkachasla, that we engaged to her, and then he thought of he warned her while they were engaged, then he shouldn't have married her, right? He shouldn't have married her, and he wasn't really supposed to marry her. She is possible to marry him, except you say he married her without having the bia, so that's the case of yesh chupel psulos. So maybe according to the first answer, it is l'chora proof of yesh chupel psulos. But according to the other ones, it's clearly saying it's not a case of that at all, so you can't prove it from our Mishnah. It says a new piece. Shalach Rav Chanina Mishmeid Rav Yochanan. The name of Rav Yochanan said the following memra. Man makes there's two brothers. Reuben dies with no children. Left two brothers, Shimon and Levi, and they're Kohanim. And Shimon performs what? Mimer. Doesn't do Yibam, performs what? If he did Yibam, done, case closed. Here he did Mimer only. The Yesh Lach, and he has another brother. Now, we learned before back on Nun, Daf Nun, in Parak of Galil, that if he did mimer and the other brother then does boeler, it ruins the mimer. They both need a get now. It's a be a psula, but it works because Minat Torah, the mimer doesn't do anything. So the second brother, it's not considered, it's not adultery per se, it's forbidden, but it's not adultery because the first brother, Shimon, didn't consummate the marriage. He just did mimer. So he's with Afilu Hu Kohen, the Kamanas, Psulas Menatrum, can't eat Truma. Why? Because when Shimon does mimer and the other brother Levi could still do yibum, and if he does yibum, that's going to ruin the mimer. They're both going to need that. Therefore, the ruins are from truma. That's what he says. Morris Laman. How does this make sense? It's not a grusha yet. He didn't give her grusha. The one brother made mimer, but since the other brother could do bia now, and that would ruin his mimer, so we say, and if he does that, she would be forbidden from truma if he did it now, because if the other brother does it, she's, so to speak, waiting for a bia psula, because you're not supposed to do that, but if you did it, it has an effect. So the Gemara is going to ask about it right away, but we say, I feel can't be psul, possible on a truma.
She has no kids, she's about coin, she goes back to her father.
That's right. We're talking about ruining her from eating her father's truma. Right, because she's waiting for a bia psula, so to speak, because Levi could do bia now if the first brother only did mimer. Now, I was going to ask about that. Laman, Elaine Rameir, if you're going to Rameir, when did Rameir say what? That she's ruining from eating her truma, and her father's truma, Michael, her father's truma, where? Mishta Mes to be a psula, because she's engaged, she's a grusha, waiting for and got engaged to a Kohen, or she's an almana getting married to a Kohen Gadol. She's expecting a bia psula, right? If they consummate the marriage, there he says you can't eat truma anymore. Why? Because it's awesome and araisa for a Kohen to marry grusha or a Kohen Gadol to marry an almana. But over here it's only in Isra Rabbanan, because the mimer doesn't do anything Minat Torah, and it's only in Isra Rabbanan for after the mimer for the other brother Levi to perform yibam on to do bia on her. That's only Isra Rabbanan. Even Rav Meir would not forbid her from eating truma. This just because her brother-in-law may do bia after Levi may do bia after Shimon does Maimer. Because of that, you're going to forbid her from eating truma. Bel or Rav Shimon, maybe because according to Rav Shimon, surely it wouldn't help. Hashem Mishnah has to be absolute daraisa achla. Rav Shimon said in the Mishnah, even where the Kohen got engaged to her, she's not forbidden from eating her father's truma. So Rabbanan boy, where the Yisra is only a possible Rabbanan, certainly wouldn't forbid it. Elokiyas Rabban, when Rabban came from Eretz Yisrael, he explained this idea of Rabbi Yochanan differently, right? Not that it was Shalach Rav Chanina Mishpei Rabbi Yochanan. When Rabban came from Eretz Yisrael, Amar, this is what he said. Also by Mimto, if he just says Mimto der Kolacha, she can certainly eat. If Shimon did Maimer, Shimon was a Kohen, and he did Maimer on the girl, that's what you're supposed to do. That wouldn't forbid her from eating truma. Yeshlo achala, but what happens if he has a brother? This Shimon's brother Levi is a halal. How could he be a halal and Shimon not? They had different mothers, right? Levi, Shimon's mother was a legitimate wife of the father Yaakov, who was a Kohen, let's say, and Levi had a bad wife. It was a daughter was the son of a Grusha. Now, if a halal marries her, then she can't eat truma anymore. So if yesh halal divrei enochel, she can't eat. Why? As we'll see, because a halal can't give anybody to eat. A halal says zazar can't give anybody truma. He can't eat truma at all. Yesh halal divrei enochel, certainly cannot eat truma. No nechlaku elishunasim like get. Now that's what you asked before about giving get, where you're not supposed to give a get. What are you supposed to do? Give her chalitza or yibam, right? But let's say he gave her a get. Once you give her a get, you still have to give her chalitza, but you've ruined it. Again, what happened here is Shimon, the Kohen, gave a get to the Yevamot, to Leah. Rabbi Yochanan, she could still eat truma, or Shlak Ain't Ocheles. Rabbi Yochanan, she could still eat truma. Why? I feel even Rav Meir, who says that what if she's betrothed, engaged to somebody that she's not supposed to? Where she's waiting for a biyapsun on a Torah. But over here, what is she waiting for? She's waiting for a chalitza. She's waiting for a bad chalitza now, right? Because he gave her a get. So it's only Nisud Rabbanan. Avol Rabbanan, she can still eat. Reish Lakish no, Ein Ocheles. She can't eat at all now if he gave her a get. I feel Reb Lezer, Reb Shimon. In other words, if a Yavam Kohen gives her a get instead of Chalitz or Yibam, Reb Shimon Reish Lakish says she can't eat Truma. I feel Reb Lezer, Reb Shimon. Even Reb Shimon who are making an Mishnami Ocheles, Hani Mili. Where could she eat? If he can, he's capable of giving her truma somewhere else, meaning because he's a Kohen. He can marry somebody else. A Kohen can give truma to somebody else. But over here, why I can't sit by giving her a get? In other words, a regular Kohen, if he gets engaged, can give her truma, can give her truma. But over here, a Kohen gives a woman a get, can't give her truma, right? A person like Kohen gives a girl a get. Can he give her truma? Can't give her truma. He gives her a get. Walks over the street and gives somebody a get. Doesn't give her truma. Or a wife, if he gives her get, can't give truma. Yeah. But by divorcing her, like Michael, you said before, if he divorces her and there's no children and her father's a Kohen, she can eat Kohen. She can eat there because that's Chazeres pasuk. But if she goes back to her father's house, she's not eating truma because of the husband. The husband's not giving her the gova. Pasuk, she's separated from him. She's severed from him. Now she go back to her father's house. But in this case, we're speaking about where there's a yavam. Reuben died with no children, and Shimon gave Leah a get. So he says, you know what? In a case like that, Rabbi Yochanan says, okay, it gets only an Issur D'Rabbanan, and you can still give her truma. Shlakish says no. She can't eat truma even in her father's house, right? She can't eat her father's house, even Kol Shimon, right? That's where you can give her makamacha, where the Kohen has the rights to give her truma somewhere else. But over here, by giving a get, that doesn't do anything. You say she can eat truma in her father's house in a regular case. In a regular case, she's not nothing to do with him anymore. But over here, when the Yavam Shimon gives a get to Leah, she can't go back to her father's house yet because she's connected to him. There's still Zika over here, right? There's still a Zika. She's still connected. She's still Zika. So what you've done is you've simply ruined her. You've ruined her from eating. Can't eat truma now. Can't eat his truma, and she can't eat father's truma because she's not. She's engaged. She's engaged to him. She's connected to him. Rashi says, 3 lines from the page, She gave her a full get b'chozeres. She goes back to her house. Totally divorced. That's fine. That's fine if you're totally divorced. But over here, she's not totally divorced. She's still connected to him.
Then he gives her chalitza.
Yeah.
Then she can go back.
Then she can go back, right? But over here, we're just talking about by the get. But if you just gave her a get, what would be the case there? If you just gave her a get, you didn't give her chalitza yet. At that point, she can't eat truma at all. That's according to Rish Lakish. According to Rabbi Yochanan, you could, because we always pass like Rabbi Yochanan, except for 3 cases. She can eat because what's the problem over here? You gave her a get, so gave her not supposed to give a get. You're supposed to give her the chalitza. Even he gave her a get. She could still eat truma at that point because she's connected to him. Okay. Nisam lo niskarshi. Now we said like this: a Kohen Gadol is only allowed to marry a virgin. And a virgin is it says nara ikach. A nara is a girl who's 12 to 12 and a half. She's bat mitzvah, or a ketana if she's 3 or 5 or 10 or 11, right? He can marry her too if she's a psula. So nisam lo niskarshu. So we said in our Mishnah, if you were divorced or if they were widowed or divorced, even Rav Meir says if it was from the psula while she was on a rusa, she can't eat truma, right? Either his truma after 12 months married, or her father's truma. But if she is, if she was divorced from having been married to him, then she's puzzled because he's ruined her by sleeping with her. So, yes, this question. What happens if a Kohen Gadol got engaged to a young girl, ubogra tachta, and before he got consummated the marriage, she became 12 and a half. Bogeres is a girl who's 12 and a half. So what happens there? She's not a Bogeres. We're going to see in the next Mishnah that according to the Tanakhama, a Kohen's not allowed to marry. A Kohen girl can't marry a Bogeres. She has to be either a Nara, it says Basula, but it's got to be a Nara. It's got to be, she's either up till 12 and a half. Any girl up to 12 and a half he can marry, but not 12 and a half. What happens if he got engaged to her before she was 12 and a half? She was either a Ktana, and then she became a Bogeres before he consummated marriage. What do you say? Ma'u, Basun Asuin, and go Basun Asuin. And the Nasuin says she's a Bogeres, he can't marry her now. Or Baseris, and you say no. As in, she got engaged when she was under 12 and a half, so therefore he can consummate the marriage after 12 and a half, at 15 or 20 or whatever they got married. Amarle, so Shmuel answer, look at our Mishnah. Tanisuin, the key is in Nasuin psulos. Mina Erison Kshera. So you see the key is you look at the time of the Nasuin. Right, Basar Kicha as and he says, Alma, the Psul Kuna Basar Nasunas Lina, middle of Paslan Manish and Asars like Kohen Gadol Mace. In other words, if a Kohen Gadol got engaged to a Almana, Kohen Gadol got engaged to a guy, and he died, she's allowed to eat truma because she's not a halal yet since he hasn't slept with her. So you see the key is the Nasuin. And therefore, if she's a Bogeres at the time of Nasuin, if she's 12 and a half or 13, whatever at the time of Nasuin, Mashmi can't marry her. Amalei, no. Our Mishnah is talking about to turn her into a chalola. Shavi chalola could be oile. He only makes her a chalola, right? The bia, the mishavi chalola. I understand. Our Mishnah, all you see is that the bia makes her a chalola. Meaning, if she was divorced or widowed after consummating, there we know she's a chalola. Only if it was consummated. If it wasn't consummated, they only had erison, then it wouldn't be. Even if it was erison and he slept with her during erison, also that he consummate, he made her a chalola. I'm asking this pasuk. The first pasuk says over there in Perek Chapal, pasuk even says, he's got to take a girl who is a virgin. Do you mean only he has to take her while she's a psula, meaning a nara up until 12 and a half, the kicha, but it could be that the nesuin afterwards is complete even afterwards. O kicha the nesuin dina, or do you know, the kicha itself has to be of nesuin only up until the age of 12 and a half. Amarle, hanami to nesu. We see this also in a brisa. Eris Almana, listen to this case. What happens if a Kohen got engaged to an Almana? Can a regular Kohen marry an Almana? Yes. He got engaged to an Almana, then it's Kohen Gadol. Then he was appointed Kohen Gadol. While they were engaged, he was appointed to be Kohen Gadol. What do you say over there? Can he marry her or not? When he's marrying her, he's already Kohen Gadol. Kohen Gadol can't marry an Almana. Yichnos, he's allowed to. He's allowed to. So you see that the key is when they get engaged. Morris says no. Shani Osan Dasiv Yikach Isha. There's an extra pasuk. Pasuk says "Vu isha b'psela yikach," and the next pasuk says "Amana grusha b'chala zona say lo yikach ki b'sula miyama v'ikach isha." So there's an extra isha there. The first pasuk says "Vu isha b'psela yikach." Then it says "Ki b'sula miyama v'ikach isha." Again, a special in the second isha. That isha is to tell me that he could take her even after he was appointed to be Kohen Gadol if he got engaged to her before. So it's more economics of Isha. The first pasuk also says Isha. So say it's the same, he could take her anyway. It's like an inclusion that he could take her in this case too, meaning he got engaged to her while she was under 12 and a half, and then she became 12 and a half. Our question. So also he can marry her. So Gemara says, no, Achas lo shnayim. One Isha is extra, not two. In other words, we have one extra. One case you could include. You can include, in other words, we're saying we give him the advantage that if he got engaged to her while he was a Kohen, and the day later he was appointed to be Kohen Gadol, he could still marry her, even though he's a Kohen Gadol now, and a Kohen Gadol can't marry a mother, but since he was engaged before, that's okay. So, but the case that we're talking about, our question where she got older, she became 12 and a half while they were engaged, and he didn't consummate the marriage until afterwards, maybe not. So Mari, so how do you know which one to include? In our question, her body has changed. Before she was a psula nara or psula ktana. Now she's a bogeres. That's changed. In this other case, she didn't change. He changed. He became a kohen gadol. So she didn't change. So we'll include that case where she didn't change. But where she changed, with that question, is left undecided. All right, we're picking here tomorrow from the Mishnah. Have a good day.